First Covenant Foundation is proud to present the Rainbow Covenant with Dr. Michael Dallin. We'll explore the Noahide movement and its connection to Israel and the Jewish people. For information, online, rainbowcovenant.org, firstcovenant.com, or call 1-313-891-1920. Reverend Saunders, how are you this morning?
Just fine. Well, with about a sinus, I'm doing fine.
That's great. Okay, well, the world is in a lot of chaos, so
yes.
It's hard for all of us to be as happy as we would like to. But okay, let's talk a little bit, or you talk about Israel's special mission as a nation among nations. It's been said that even though the covenant was made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, now in a different time and place, maybe that covenant doesn't apply. How do you feel?
Well, I read recently, by the way, an article by Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, on the Jerusalem Post, which kind of dealt with this. And I read some of the responses also to his article. I think the real idea is, does Israel have a mission? Do they continue to have a mission? And the answer is absolutely yes. And sometimes when people are told about the mission, you'll find different responses. Some will respond in a negative way and say, well, gee, don't put all that pressure on us when you remember we're just human beings. On the other hand, you have people that will accept it, but accept it kind of in a limited way. The people of Israel have a great message to the world. And in some sense, this is why we are told in the book of Exodus, chapter 19 and verse 6, that God tells the people of Israel, after he brings them out of the land of captivity, out of Mitzrayim, he says to them that he is going to formulate them into two things, a nation of priests and also a holy nation. So the big question always becomes, well, whom are these people going to be priests to? Well, to the rest of the world, of course. Isaiah later on follows up this idea, by the way, when he says that Israel is to be a light to the nations. Now, some people accuse Rabbi Boteach of making the nations like children. And in some sense, we are children, at least in our thinking. It's very, as one of my rabbis used to tell me, it's kind of infantile thinking when we think about God being in some kind of form, or that God would ever take upon himself some kind of form. It's kind of an infantile way of thinking. So God gave this mission to Israel that would carry out what he promised Abraham. And the promise that he gave Abraham in Genesis chapter 12 and verse 3, when he says that in him that all the families of the earth would be blessed. And I would challenge people, by the way, to look at the word blessed in the Hebrew, because it's not the normal word baruch. It's a different form of word. So anybody that's interested in looking at the Hebrew, I would hope they would look at that word and try to understand that word in a different way. But the reality is, this message of pure monotheism, not 3 in 1, not 1 in 3, but pure monotheism, with all the ideas, by the way, that name carries with it. And of course, we're talking about the name of God. And that carries with it what people will say are attributes or qualities. I generally like to use the term behaviors. And to tell the world that God is not only a just God, but he is a kind God, that he is a forgiving God, that he is indeed a righteous God, that he is a long-suffering God, that all these qualities that people don't really realize, because I think when Christians, and especially non-Jewish people, approach what they call the Old Testament, they tend to see a very wrathful, vindictive God. But when they approach the so-called New Testament, then they say, oh, this is the God of love, and this is the God that we want to embrace. And all of a sudden, it's like we're talking about two different gods. And in some sense, that's the way they view it. But the reality is, the God of the Tanakh, the God of this universe, the King of this universe, is a never-changing God. And that same God, even though, yes, he is loving, he is kind, but he's also just, he's also righteous.
Well, we do have freedom of choice.
Absolutely.
And that makes all the difference of the world. It is a loving and just God. But, when you give people the right to do what they want to do, it doesn't always work out the way that it should. Jack, we are totally out of time, but you've made a very, very good point. And I hope that we can continue on talking, because when I'll be back, I'm going to Israel this Sunday, but I'll be back in a couple of weeks, and I hope that we can continue this conversation the next time we speak.
Well, I hope you have a wonderful trip, Zelda.
Thank you so much. The Rainbow Covenant with Dr. Michael Dallin has been made possible by First Covenant Foundation. Online, rainbowcovenant.org, firstcovenant.com, or call 1-313-891-1920.